Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we use our good and bad experiences, friendship, and passions to inspire thought provoking conversation and soul driven advice to better help you create a life worth living and step more brightly into yourself inch by inch.
Tracy.
Hi, it's our last show of season 3.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Okay, I can believe it, but still,
I can't,
three
Amy.
seasons.
I have to be honest. When we started this, I would have been surprised if we got to 5. I
Really?
not like nothing against either of us. We were to the tail end of a lockdown and a pandemic. Sorry if this trigger warning, I guess, but it was just something we started doing, and we were just having really good conversations during the pandemic, and we are like, hey, other people should hear this too. And it aligned with some of our other goals. And at the start of this year, we had some really big goals for this year, and it kind of weighed heavy on me all year that we didn't make movement on stuff that we planned. And like we had a whole like planning session and like the during the Monday holidays in January and February, and then we just kept moving further and further from it. And we did less episodes this year than we've ever done before. And I was determined. I'm like, no, we're getting to 5 years. I didn't think we'd get to 5 episodes. We're 3 years in. We got 2 more in us at minimum. I don't know about you, Amy, but we're doing this for 2 more. When we started this, what did you think? Like, did you have an outcome end game in mind?
I guess I didn't.
We
I guess,
started I would say we
yeah,
started
I
every
guess,
planning session with, do you still want to do this?
yeah,
Do
we
you,
did.
do you still want to do this? I haven't asked you that in a while.
That's so funny. No, yes, I do. But yes, we did always ask, do you still want to do this? Just to make sure. What if like one person really wanted to keep doing it and the other one was like, you're dragging my body along with you, right? But I feel like I did not have an outcome in my head. I just had a desire to do it. Like I had a desire, and it has, there are, it's such a weird thing, right? I feel like it has been such a huge part of my growth over the last few years. And it is also like just a little like accomplishment. Like
Right.
we've accomplished this.
I get so proud every episode that I create the title card for, that we have 131 episodes now. And I remember creating the art for the first one. So I just want to like celebrate us, because I went from not really having an outcome, like you said, but feeling pride along the way that we were doing something and putting something out there. And was it last year's Spotify year in review for podcasters or whatever that is, where I think you shared, like, did they say we had more episodes than like 92
98%.
98%
Mm-hmm.
98%. And so yeah, I usually I get a little shy when talking about this in the real world. For someone who records and posts herself on the internet in many different formats, I don't bring up that I have a podcast a whole lot, because I felt like at that time everyone and their brother had a podcast. And you know what? They might, but we have 131 episodes. But so this isn't just a reflection episode for us. It's not. I honestly, this year flew by. I don't know what our episodes all were this year. I remember we did our Summer of Woo, which was super fun, and we have a lot of great ideas for season 4. So I'm looking forward to 2024. Um,
Mhm.
but I saw a TikTok earlier. I know, shocker, Tracy's on TikTok. And this creator, and I didn't know I was going to talk about it at the time, so I'm sorry that I didn't bookmark it or write down her name, but she just said, "Hey, uh you're going to start seeing a lot of end of year montages and clips where people do, it's really popular to do like 1 second of your day of life kind of a montage for a little clip. And, some people do have hit many milestones and have really exciting, like, end of the year montages. Uh, it's okay if you just got through the year. Like, it's okay. And while I've never really compared myself to other people's years, I didn't realize how much I really needed to hear that and continue to say that to myself, that, like, it's okay you just got through this year. Like, it didn't look like what you planned or what you wanted. Uh but it's okay, you just got through it. Some years are just like that. I did a timeline once for a school project in grad school, where we had to write down, like the biggest milestone from every year. And I had this 3 year chunk of my life. I couldn't think of a single milestone. I didn't have any photos that triggered anything. I didn't have any journal entries. And I was like, huh. And I remember my professor being like, well, you existed. Like, you clearly got here. And it doesn't sound like it was terribly depressing or hard. So, like, yeah, some years you just live. And I was like, yeah, some years you just live.
You
But so
do.
I wanted to take an episode and just encourage each other and those listening to just celebrate something about the past trip around the sun, right? There's something worth celebrating, because I don't think enough of us give credit for just getting through the day to day. It actually takes a lot, no matter how you're feeling or what's going on in life. And the fact that people do, like, day to day things plus achieve milestones, that's pretty cool too, right? So I guess, okay, so my question is, at the end of a year, do you tend to feel bad about all that you haven't done, or are you someone that is more amazed at how much you did? Like, if that's your like heart scale, like, oh my gosh, I didn't achieve anything I wanted to do, or I didn't achieve as much as other people. And then the other end is like, oh my gosh, look at all I did, or look what I did. What would you be?
I would think so. For me, my knee jerk response is always, you didn't accomplish enough. But then luckily, my knee goes back down onto the carpet. And then I go, now hold on a minute. You actually did this, this, and this. And that's pretty great. And or my knee jerk response is that. And then you say, but Amy, what about this, and this? So then I'm like, oh, yes, you're right. And apparently I have a freak out in October and not at the end of the year.
I think we both
So,
do it around our birthday and or Thursdays, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. But
I
but I will say it's actually a little bit different than that. I have a different
mm,
attitude. So whether I feel I haven't done enough or I'm celebrating that of what I did achieve, I'm super excited for the next year.
ooh, we are
And
planners. We do like
yes, love that planning. All right, what about you?
uh, I think I'm a bit of the same. Uh I tend to start with, it doesn't look like I didn't do what I said I was gonna do. But also a lot of my New Year's resolutions or goals or whatnot, like, if I were to truly reflect on it, they were suggestions, they were ideas, they were aspirations. They weren't necessarily smart goals that I just didn't work towards. They were stuff I wanted to do, and then other stuff that I deemed more important got in the way.
Yeah.
Um, and so for me, like, what am I celebrating about this past year? Um, so I shared, I have been on this 15-year diagnosis and now treatment journey. And I'm surprised at how underwhelming it all feels in hindsight, because it
Really?
took up so much of my year, right? Like, and because it felt so passive on my end, right? It took time and it took energy, but I didn't go to medical school, right? Like, it didn't feel like an accomplishment. And I've been, like, wondering about that. Like, what will it take for me to celebrate this milestone more so than just, like, the immense gratitude I felt? I do have gratitude towards it, but like this most recent cycle for me, when I would have experienced the pain, it came and went. And I had this moment where I was like, did you even realize you weren't in pain? Like every 28 days for 15 years you suffered, 1.5 to 3 years total of your life was about this. And not being in pain just flew by. Like, who do you think you are? I had this moment where I only reflected because I put it on the calendar to like, did XYZ happen? Like, how do you feel? And the very next day, Amy, and this is what I told you I'd share with you on the show, I got a call from my doctor's office. One of the surgeon's office, his nurses, was calling to check in. And it was like the 5 week check in point. And it seemed kind of random and weird and whatnot. And so, we talked and I shared some stuff with her. And she's like, if I may, and she started asking me some questions about my experience and what other surgeries may have seen, or what led me to them. And I was like, oh, should have told her about the podcast, right? But so I gave her this update, and she shared with me that since my surgery, they have had 2 referrals for this very thing. That they haven't seen the people yet, and obviously for patient confidentiality, they can't say anything. But when I was referred in January and then talked to some people in March, nobody was willing to call it what I thought it was, or even, like I was seeing 2 very different groups of people who were not talking to each other. And in June, when I met with them both, they were still very much like, well, yeah, we'll look into it while we're in there, but it's probably nothing. In August, when it looked more like it, and I met with this surgeon, he had never heard of it before, let alone operated on it. And neither had anyone else at this big clinic. And so for me to go from August talking to someone about it to then the month after my surgery where they knew that's what it was, right? That tells me that they were talking to people about it, and that led to other things. And so while I don't hope that those 2 individuals have what I had, I do hope that my experience is helping them get the treatment that they need. And it wasn't until that moment that I was able to celebrate this year. Because before, like I said, it was just underwhelming. I don't know, like the whole thing felt, I was surprised the whole way at how underwhelming all of it felt. But at the
Well,
same
first,
time,
you know what? I'm just going to interject. 15 years? Are you freaking kidding me? You were exhausted by that point,
thank
right?
you.
Your self advocacy at that point was exhausting you. So that's why it was probably underwhelming. You were like, yeah, no kidding,
Well,
for
and
goodness sakes.
there was no buildup, no fanfare. Nobody knows what I experienced but me. So I am the only one who can truly celebrate
Yeah,
what this is. And kind of like we talked about in that episode you shared, you have a hard time advocating for yourself, but not for others. I
yeah,
think I had a hard time celebrating myself, but now I can celebrate that milestone for others, right? Like I felt I've never
yeah.
talked to anybody that experienced this before, and I'll probably never get to connect with those people. But just knowing that, and then even them reaching out to kind of ask some things, tell me that they are now looking for that, it increased awareness, right? Whether
Isn't that
for
amazing?
nurses,
Yeah,
fellows, or the surgeons themselves, that this is something that around 40 people are known to have had before this, that I know of, and I'm now one of those. And so yeah, it was all hypothetical in my head that that could have happened, but getting that phone call, like, and I still don't know if it's related or not, but that helped me celebrate this year and that moment.
good.
And I think that will solidify it more for me, like it's an ending, right? I think that's what was weird before, was it was like this 15-year thing that was just done, right? It's just done. And it just reminds me of, happiness does not lie on the other side of achievement, right? Like in that journey, I was always looking towards what's next, what's next. And now I'm like, oh, I don't have to deal with this anymore. And I was like, oh, that was a huge part of your life. You should be right. Like once you recover, so
Yeah.
let's maybe make some plans for other stuff to look forward to or work on. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What about you? What are you celebrating about this past year?
Yeah, as you were talking, well, first of all, I was listening to you. It's not like I was like, what me, blah, blah, blah in
We
the
can do
background.
both.
No, I was wondering about that, and I feel as if I'm celebrating a few things. Um, I always celebrate that, like, okay, kids are seem to be doing okay. Like, as long as everybody's just like doing okay, I'm like, yes,
I
yes,
love that.
granddaughter doing okay. Yes. All right. That's a huge celebration. Um, Rick and I doing the huge step of traveling, international travel, like that. I don't think anyone, it can't compare to what you went through, but the fact that my husband got on a plane and traveled 8 hours in the air to get someplace with
That is
me,
huge. Has nothing
for
to do with
me,
other people. We all get for like that is huge for both of you.
it's huge. And then just the fact that yes, we got to experience that. So I'm celebrating that kind of adventurous spirit that we had, right? I'm
And
also celebrating, and I think I shared this before because I know I shared it in a different episode. My sister is cancer free, and I was with her on her last oncology appointment. And so that was huge. Yes. So I feel like
I
those are the big things.
I'm gonna push you a little bit and you can say,
Oh,
no, I don't want to do this publicly, Tracy. But both of those things were very much about celebrating other people, Amy. What are you celebrating about you?
okay. So,
Because I do want to say, I was very excited you got to go to Paris. That is a huge milestone for you to go to France. I
mhm.
remember you once shared with me someone once told you you're never gonna go to Paris, just get over it already. And I was like, I will bring you tomorrow. Where is your passport? Where's the visa? We are going right now. And so when I found out you got to go, not only did you get to go, but like you got a travel agent. Like you got it booked. You had a time and you spent time there. So I'm very excited and I want to celebrate you and that you achieved
Yeah.
that because that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. And I guess I would say for me, what I'm celebrating, I hate to even bring it up because I feel like at this point, everybody's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to say it. I finished another draft of my book. So this one, now granted, I know my husband is like, you know how to finish the book? Right, the end. That's it. He's like, the end. It's
Okay,
done.
everybody goes to a modern art museum and says, I could have
I
done
could
that.
do that.
And you
Mm-hmm.
look at them, and my response is always, but you didn't. Everyone says they want to write a book, but they don't. Everyone
Yeah.
says they could have written that, but they didn't. Not only have you written a book, but editing is harder than writing the book.
Oh, let me tell you. And my brain loves ideas, right? I am, I love ideas. And it's very hard when you're writing something to be like, well, you could add this, and then you could have that, and then you could put this thing in there, and then what about that for a plot point? And then finally, you're just like, it can't be everything. The book cannot be everything. Just stop it, brain. But it's out to a beta reader and who is one of my best friends.
But still, it's
but
out to a beta reader. That's
but I'm
huge.
always like, you can't just say you love it. All right, Wendy, you have to be like, this felt weak. I love this part. You
You
need to
have to tell
strengthen
me
this.
every day of the week was a Thursday and that is impossible.
And I will just say that is a real thing because I shared this with you, Tracy. I had to do a spreadsheet to be like, chapter one, it says it's a school day, and then the next day she's doing this, and then so finally I just had to be like, all right, we're starting this on a Monday, and the entire book is from Monday to Sunday, and
And
that the whole book is a week.
I want to give you credit for that because that just goes to illustrate, and please play this for Rick, that writing a book is not just writing a book. right? It's weeding through ideas, it's creating plot, it's character backstory, it's tracking, creating a spreadsheet to track day of the week and weather and time of day, right? Like
Eye
there's
color,
so
height,
much.
like everything.
So I want to give you credit for the amount of immense organization that takes. In addition to, you have a full-time job, you are a mother, you are a grandmother, you are a wife, a piper, a
Thank you.
poet, a pauper, right? Like
A pawn and a king. It was one of my dad's favorite songs. So thanks for that. Yeah, I think that I feel like to celebrate the year, I think you should have somebody who is, who you can do it together with, like we're doing it here, where we're like, but this, but
you need
what
a
about
mirror.
that? You know what I mean? So that it's sort of like that reality check. Yeah.
It's kind of okay. So I know I just said you need a mirror, but I got one of those during the a couple years ago. I got one of those true mirrors. So we have all, if you look in a mirror in
Oh
life,
yeah,
we've all
you're
only really seen a reflection of ourselves. It's why so
right.
many people hate their own pictures because they can flip, right? So I got one of those true mirrors that shows you what other people see. I can't handle it. Like my goal was to look at it every morning. I this year got away from me, so I didn't do that, but maybe next year. But like so that I could start to see myself as other people see me instead of rejecting it. Right. And so you need like a true mirror, someone who can tell you, no, but this is objectively what we see because we get so caught up in the experience or what we intended to do.
Yeah, I love that.
I I don't know. I was going back to like that initial Likert scale, and I have these plants that when I bought them, the plant store they had a section of plants of steel, they call them. And the woman explained it to me that this plant um if you can completely ignore it and it will survive. It will survive. She's like, my grandson takes it to college, brings it back, and I think the first time it gets watered is when their parents get their hands on it and stick it in a bathtub or a shower when they get home from college. And she goes, and it's fine. It's just it's surviving. It'll truck along. You would actively have to try to kill it, not just not take care of it, but like give it coffee instead of what, right? Or maybe not coffee. But anyways, she says, but if you take care of it, if you know just the tiniest thing about plants, it will thrive and it will boom and it will, like you will feel like you have the greenest of thumbs, right? And so I was gonna be like, you know what, this year I survived. I survived. And because I survived and because I didn't make my life worse, and even if you did, you still survived, right? But I get the opportunity to thrive next year.
Oh, all right. I love that. Also, if you haven't listened to the last episode, 130, word of the year, I'm just wondering if you might want to add thrive to the mix of
Ooh. I think
possible
that's an
words.
outcome. I don't know if that'll be the word. Oh,
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's a good, it's
Yeah.
going on the list. Well, okay, so then for next year. Okay, so we've reflected on how we are starting to celebrate ourselves this past year. I think
Mhm.
there's still more we both could do in that realm, but what do you want to celebrate next year? Have you thought about that yet?
Not thought about that yet.
So, last year, oh, we did this last year, so maybe you're getting there because it's almost time, but
Okay.
last year I ended the year with this 12 or 13 night thing with what wishes I had for
Mhm.
myself. So
Yeah.
instead of goals, I went into the new year with wishes. So have you thought about wishes you have for yourself?
Empty air. Empty air. You know, I think that wishes for me always come back to other people, right? It still for me comes back to
Mm,
other people. I want my children to thrive. I
okay.
want them healthy. I want them happy,
Can I
right?
give you a new end of year exercise? Sorry to
Yes,
interrupt, but
fine. Give me a new end of year exercise.
reach out to all the people in your life and ask them to think of a wish they have for you.
I refuse. That feels so hard to me. That feels I don't know if I can do that. I don't, that is okay. I think the
Do
exercise
you
I
not
need
want
to
to
do is
ask or do
why
you not want to receive?
I don't want to ask. That
See, because
feels
I feel fine asking,
selfish.
but I don't know if I would open and read them.
Okay, what's that difference? What is that? I
I
don't.
so maybe we can start with, because what gave me the idea was you have all these beautiful wishes for other people, I'm sure. So what if you end out your year either with a card or a text message with being like, as we enter 2024, this is my wish for you, right? Everything you want for yourself, and then see if anybody does it back.
Okay,
It
that
might be
I
a
could
litmus test
do.
for who listens to the show in our life, but also like
They're
just
like, oh, damn, I got to answer her
I
back.
I love the idea of sharing the wishes you have for other people instead of keeping them inside yourself. But then I also like the idea of you hearing what other people wish for you, because I'm sure they have beautiful things out there. Like they're in your life, of course. However, why wouldn't they?
So, what do you wish for yourself next year?
I haven't done my vision board yet. I don't know. I so last year I did
Do
the
you, I
okay.
have a question. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Do you do a new vision board every year?
Well, I
You don't
didn't.
just hang on to the old one and look at it and then feel shame and guilt?
If I finish it, if I actually complete it, I do redo it. So it's
Oh,
probably been at like last year I got this whole I created like I did it in Pinterest with the overarching goal of once I get enough pictures to pick from, I'll create like a Canva thing to put as my desktop background and I'll print them out and I'll hang them up. But none of them felt right. Like I couldn't, I had images in my head I couldn't find and I couldn't recreate. And then
yeah.
other stuff happened and I just kind of walked away from it. And so I'm kind of hoping this year to maybe, so I will start where I left off last year and I'll make edits and then start adding new. But yeah, see, that's my problem. And I've been told, I don't remember what it is in my astrological chart, but there's something in my chart. It might just be the Sagittarius rising, but it might go a little deeper past the big six than that. But she started the session with like, what goals do you have for yourself and in life? And I have a hard time saying things concretely past a year. I have a hard time picturing past a year. And she said that's really common for wherever my planets are, that you are.
Okay.
And but I'm also a planner, right? So it's like this weird mix of like I want to
Yeah.
know and I want to plan and I want to work towards it, but I also want to leave it open. I want to be able to not achieve it and be okay with not achieve, right? Like sometimes I go back to that Pinterest thing and I was like, oh God, thank you, universe, for unanswered prayers. Like, no, that is not where my life should have been, right? And it was just
Oh my
at the
gosh.
time it had just been like 4 months prior to that. It wasn't even a full year. And I was like, oh no, that's not me today. That's not me now. Um, but so but I will make wishes for myself because those can be a little bit more broad, right? Like you don't want to overly specify your manifestations or your wishes, but you don't want to be too broad, right? You want to be able to have some what do they call it? Like inspired action in your life to show the universe you're ready and you can handle it. But so last year I did that. Okay, so the German word for it is Raunestia. Did I say that right?
I don't, I
I'll
do,
put it
let me,
I tried to have YouTube and Google say it and it was just so
Raunacht,
yeah.
Raunacht. It looks,
Oh, you did it really
but,
good.
but you know what? I have my cousin is married to a
The
German
German.
man, and I should have asked,
I was like, I have
Heiner,
a,
can you please pronounce this for me?
I should have taken German. I have a lot of German background. I'd love to honor them. I heard that word on YouTube when I was looking it up before the show, and I was like, I can't do that. But
Oh, I
anyway, so
see. You phonetically
I
like
tried to.
Raunescha.
Yeah, there you go. You got
We'll
it. Nailed
see.
it. But anyways, so it's essentially the 12 days between Christmas and New Year. I personally kind of felt called last year to start it on the solstice, right? So it's kind of the end of the year is a magical time as we talk about. Um, but so of those wishes I set out for myself, um, for a huge chunk of the year, whenever I found the little thing I wrote all of them on, or if I thought about it, I was like, wow, that's a lot to accomplish in 3 more months because none of it's happened so far. Right? I'd be like, okay, universe is gonna be real busy, right? But one of the wishes was like a healthy, pain-free body. And when I wrote that, I didn't, while I wished for my health journey to like be different, for it to be fixed, I still had in my head, being recently told we've reached the end of the diagnostic journey, right? I did
Yeah.
not know what that would look like in terms of like wishing to the universe. I was more like that magical, probably childish thinking of just like, I'll wake up and it'll be gone. It'll just be done. Like I did this thing, I burned the paper, I gave it to the universe, and the universe is just gonna take the pain away. I didn't think it'd be like 100 medical appointments, 6 MRIs, and a couple surgeries, right? Like, but here we are. And so I was like, 1 for 12 is pretty good. That's really good.
I'd say so.
And so I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, I think I just might reuse the same list for in terms of wishes, um, and do those and see what 2024 holds. Because honestly,
Oh,
although any of them, I tried to follow, I don't have it in front of me. I'm not trying to be intentionally vague, but like I kind of followed a level 10 life kind of vibe for it. So you pick 13 wishes, 12 of them end up with the universe, one of them randomly gets assigned to you to own. Um, and I'm real lucky on the one that I felt real lucky at the one that I received because it seemed like the easiest to do. I didn't know how I was going to get my student loans paid in 12 months had that one got to me. That would have been a much different experience. Um, but in hindsight, like both the universe and I conspired together to make the health thing happen, right?
yeah.
And because we were in that dance together, I wouldn't have been able to do the other 11, right? Like I was kind of hyper focused to get it done. And
Mhm.
so maybe whether I, add one more to make the 13, or if I'm just like every year till we get through this first list. I mean, some of them are things that can happen in conjunction. Some of them are things that a magical thing could happen and just wipe the slate clean for things.
Yeah. I had
Uh,
decided not to do it this year.
I don't know if I'll do it the same way. I think it might be like, okay, we had that conversation last year. Time is a social construct. We'll just keep moving. We'll keep flowing. And if not,
Yeah.
thank you for the one I got, right? Like, so yeah, so I'm kind of right now, I'm on wishes and vibes. I'm thinking of big and little goals, but I'm really hesitant because, the last 3 years have really forced me to just be like, just experience life and just sit and vibe and rest and heal. And so part of me wants to goal set and like dive into it and be headstrong and think I can control it. And then the other part of me is like, let's ride it. And I haven't figured out what the middle of those are. The word of the year exercise from the last episode, I will be doing that. I saw another TikTok earlier this month that pick a mood for the year. And I was like, oh, maybe that's better than a word. Is just pick a mood.
Well,
And
we did say it or a vibe. And
yeah, a vibe.
I guess it's a little different mood or a vibe, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Pick an ambiance for the year.
uh
Dark academia. I don't know.
pick an emotion. No, but so I don't know, it's that time of the year. I know some people feel weird about resolutions or the end of the year doesn't mean anything. And if you don't like putting pressure on yourself, don't. But use this time to kind of celebrate and reflect, have gratitude, maybe project, right? More than anything, you don't have to be absolute. You don't have to have, buy a new planner. I have 3, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to. um I saw something that someone said this time of year has many magic windows. And
I
so,
love that term,
right?
magic windows. And it does indeed.
So
Yeah.
astrologically, I know Jupiter's moving for the first time in a while. I know lots of
Mhm.
things are happening with the stars. That's not this podcast. We love that, but I'm not going to share those dates. But some really common ones that are coming up around the time we post this live. So December 21st, 22nd, that period is the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. Then you have a full moon on December 26th. You have New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, obviously. And then if this time of year is a little busy for you, or if you're not as prepared or you just don't know, my usual backup is Chinese New Year,
I
which
love it.
that follows the moon more than anything, right?
Hmm.
So if you're not feeling the magic now, if you're not feeling ready, February 10th, you get a whole new opportunity. If you are someone who likes the wheel of the year, just the idea of cycles, you don't necessarily, I know there's some conflict within the community of who created the Wheel of the Year and what that is, that I still have a lot to learn about, but you can pick your own cycles, right? So I like the word Wheel of the Year because every 6 weeks you get a bit of a death and a rebirth, and then the overarching annual death and rebirth.
I think too, astrologically, Aries season is the astrological new year. So there is always that as well.
And
Yeah,
that's
I
end
just
of
had,
March, right? So
yes, yes.
there's you got a lot of magic to play with if you like
There's
play with
so
that.
many opportunities, and you can create your own magic window too. I firmly believe that. I think that if say you're looking at whatever, like, oh, the moon is in my sign, in my moon sign today, that feels magical. Or it's 11:11 or whatever, you're just like, that's magic, let me just put some
You know what?
pixie dust on that.
Yesterday morning, I woke up feeling the best I have in probably a decade, not even this year. And I blasted Britney Spears and I danced around my kitchen while I did some dishes. And like, I just had this 6 hour window where I just consciously knew, like, wow, you might not feel like this the rest of the day, let alone the rest of the year. But like, I had my own little personal magic. So I did some stuff kind of then that felt really good, right? So it might go by your mood,
Look,
right?
yeah, look for those magic windows. You can create them, or maybe they just happen to you.
I
Yes.
love that. I also saw something, I know nothing about it, but I encourage you to look up snow spells because that just seemed so amazing that
It feels very frozen-y. I like
and
it.
it was kind of around she said making peace with the departing year, which kind of resonates with me this year.
Yes, very much so. We are coming up on our own celebration as well, right?
I love it. What is it?
It's our anniversary,
It's
Brightly's our third
our
anniversary.
birthday.
It is. It's our birthday. Exactly. It's our third birthday, and we are very excited about it. And it is something to celebrate, correct?
I am. I think it's cool. And I'm looking forward to celebrating 2024 with you. So I'm not gonna make any promises this time around like I did last year, but we're gonna try all the things we couldn't squeeze in this year. We're hoping we have some big ideas for some guests and bringing in some other perspectives with us. We've always had fun with the conversations with my sister Casey. So bringing in some other voices, and then the start of our very first book club. So keep an eye on our socials and we'll try and let you know in advance of the title of that one. And so you can join with us.
Excited to do that. So, if this episode spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful year. Happy New Year. Thanks for being along with us on this journey in 2023.
Mwah.